Hello, I'm Li Hao. So today we're going to attempt to build another component, which is tabs. You often see this, or even you see this every time when you try to use the Svelte REPL, which is the tab, right? You can come over here and switch, create tab, right? And you can switch between tabs, and the content will change because you switch the tabs, right? So let's come up with this tab component and let's try to design this tabs component together, right? Oftentimes when you want to try things, yes, you can go head down and try it out. But sometimes when you want to design a component, you will try to imagine how you want the user to use your component. So over here, let's try to put on our thinking hat, try to go into imagination, try to imagine how you would want to use this awesome, superb tab components that you write. Right? So this is how I would imagine, how I would want to use. I'll probably want to have a tabs component at the outside, right? I have a tabs, and inside I can define as many tab I want, right? So I have tab, I can have multiple tabs I want. And sometimes based on certain condition, I want to show or remove or hide, right? Based on certain conditions. So say here I'm gonna say is logged in. Okay, just a random condition. I'm gonna say if based on this condition, I'm gonna show or hide certain tabs, right? So for example, maybe this is a tab that can only be seen by a login user, right? And maybe sometimes I want more than that, right? I want maybe hide 2 tabs at the same time. I'm just trying to imagine how I want the user to use this. Okay, these are annoying. So let me just come over here, create a script tag. Just let define tabs, let tab, let is log in. So they stop bugged me. Okay, let's come back and try imagine again. Okay, continue imagining. I have a tabs component. Inside I can shove as many tabs I want, and I can have certain condition to show or hide the tabs, right? So another way of doing this, show or hide a certain tab. So this is when you hide, it's like it's gone, right? You don't see it over the tab. It's not like whether you are choosing that tab at the current moment, right? It's just gone. So sometimes a different alternate way of designing this would be maybe come to use a props, right? Show like should show, right, is log in. Maybe like an alternate way of design this would be this way, right? You use a props to decide whether the tabs itself should be shown or not. But I find that maybe what I want, okay, let's try to get our imagination wild, right? I want to design it in such a way that I just use the if logic block to decide when to show or hide a certain tab. I want it this way, right? Okay, so here I have it. So here is what I want. And then next thing is what about tab content, right? Tab content should be as easy as go into the tab components and write things, right? I wanna hey for this one and log in content 1, and I have login content 2, and here are like who ha hey. Okay, so I have 4 tabs. 2 of the tabs may be showing, may be there or may not be there because depends on the condition called is logged in. So here when I write this, you probably think of like, oh, I'm gonna use slots, right? Slots is the perfect way of having contents inside the components to be inserted somewhere, right? Yeah, that's right. Probably will use slots element for this. And tabs usually comes with a title, right? So title, probably I can come over here and write the title of my tab. So I'm gonna have my tab is lack of good names. I'm gonna call this tab 1. This is gonna be a log in tab 2, secret tab 3. Okay, I will probably just call it secret as well. Secret tab 2 and tab 3. And this is the final final tab. Okay, maybe final tab will be, I want to just show that this can be dynamic. I'm going to define a name called username. And the final tab is actually based on the username, right? So who, ha, he, this is the this is the info for the user name. Okay, so this is the content itself can be dynamic as well. This is how I like it. And let's try to figure out how to implement this, right? We just come up with like all the things that we want, and then we reverse engineer about how we can implement this. Okay, so we need two components, right? The tabs and tab. So I need to create the tab component. So for the tab, it's quite obvious, right? You need a props called title, and whatever inside is this tab's content. So I'm going to come over here, going to create script, export let's title, and I have my slots for all the content inside a tab. Right. So for the tabs itself, yes, again, I need to use slots to basically insert all of this into somewhere, right? If you don't have a slot for this, then you shorten all this content will be nowhere to insert, and it will not be available at all, right? So I'm gonna come over here and add a slot for this tab. So here I now, instead of let's tabs, I'm gonna import tabs from the tabs.svelte. Same thing goes with tab, import tab from tab.svelte. Okay, so now I have all the tabs showing on the screen. Okay, username, I should say username is me, right? Liao. Okay. We've said we wanted it to be dynamic, right? So I'm gonna create an input bind value called username, so that I can come over here and change my name. Okay. So we have all the tabs shown at once, which is not really what we want. We want to only show the one that is being selected at the moment, right? So probably here we can have I would say like a key for the tab, right? So usually you would have like certain things like a key or ID for the tab, and in the tabs component you want to say what are the default selected tab, right? The selected selected tab would be the ID, would be say something, right? So I'm gonna call ID would be just number, right? So I'm gonna say here will be 1. So I'm gonna create ID 1, ID 2, ID 3, and ID 4 for this. So usually you would have a default selected tab, and it could be changed by someone else, right? So you can this is optional. So here my tabs, I probably will have to define these props, right? Script export let's selected tab, and default maybe I'm just gonna say 1 for now. I have no idea what's gonna be. Okay, and then tab, I also needs to come over and say define the ID as well. Okay, so now tabs and tab has to talk to each other, right? I need to tell my tab when you should show your content. Right now, all my tabs is showing all their content. Let me wrap this whole thing with a div so that it looks nicer. Right, I'm gonna wrap all this with a div so that they are on different lines. Right, so I have 2 tabs content right now because its login is false, right? So once I set this to true, then you see that you have 4 contents. So I want to have a way for the tabs component to tell the tab that, hey, you should be hidden, or hey, you should be showing right now. And usually that is being done by, if you have the tab component within the tabs component, then what you usually do is you probably pass a props to tell that, right? But in this case, we don't really import tab component in the tabs, but we actually pass it tab inside tabs. So tab is actually a children. It's actually a children of tabs, but we just don't have a way to communicate, right? So there's a few ways to do this. First is you could pass it through slots, right? You can say selector tab is this. Selector tab is this, and you can come over here and use let binding, right? Let selector tab, and then for each of the tab, you kind of pass in selector tab and decide whether you should be showing your slots, right? Based on a certain condition, whether your selector tab is equals to ID and should show or not, right? So based on this ID, this decides whether you should show your tab or not. But we are adding one more thing over here, which is I don't like, right? I already come up with a design where I don't have to pass all this, right? I just want to write like this. So what's the alternative to pass data besides going through props? Context? Are you thinking about context? I hope that you are thinking about context, because that's what we're gonna use. So we're gonna come over here over tabs. I'm gonna import set context from the Svelte, and I'm gonna set a tab context, right? So I'm gonna set context called selected tab, and I'm gonna pass the selected tab over. Okay, and over here, each of them I don't have props anymore. To read it, I'm gonna say get context, and let's selected tab equals to get context, selected tab, and now you can see that you only have one tab showing, right? Which is hey, because right now you're selecting number 1. If you say number 2, then number 3, then you'll see login content 2, right? If you say number 2, then you'll see login content 1, right? That's great. That is exactly what we want. Now, now we have one more thing that we haven't settled, which is the title, right? There's no way to click the tab, right? Here you can choose between tabs because you can see the title and can click it, but here you can't, right? So how do you pass data from one component from your tab component to the parent, right? Previously we learned about props where you can do something binding to pass, but we've come to the conclusion that we should use the context to pass the selected tab to the child component, which is a tab. And we can do the same thing as well to use context to pass data from the tab all the way back to tabs, right? So here I'm going to create another context called titles. And here I'm going to pass in an object with 2 methods. One is called register tab, and one is called Unregister tab. So this is a way for me to register and unregister tab using so I'm going to call it with an ID with a title and unregister with an ID. Okay, so here I provide these 2 methods. Let's say tab titles. Probably doesn't matter. Okay, provide 2 methods so that over here in my tabs, I can get this and I'm going to register myself. I'll come over here, get context. This is the tab titles. And I'm going to register myself. So I'm going to call here tab titles, register ID. Right? And when I am unmounted, so say for example on destroy, I need to unregister myself. I'm going to say tab titles.unregister ID. Actually, I need to pass ID and the title. Okay, so I've registered myself and I remember to unregister myself. Of course, I need to import this from Svelte as well. Okay, hold on. Tab titles is not register. Oh, I should call register tab and unregister tab. Right, so you register yourself when you are being created, and when you are destroyed, you unregister yourself. So that is how we can achieve when certain things is on and off. You when this is false, then you are destroying this two, and we need to unregister ourselves to remove the two tabs, right? So here now I can come over here and implement an array. Okay, probably do it here. Array, which is titles that I have. Let's see. Probably I'm gonna use. Okay, I'm gonna push the title and the ID as an object into this array, right? And when I want to unregister, I need to find out index. I want to find out the titles. So I need to find out the title dot. No, I'm gonna title dot ID that matches the ID that I'm gonna remove. Right, tab index, and I'm gonna remove it. So I'm gonna say type if tab index. If I can find it, if it's greater than -1, then I will say titles dot splice. Okay, that this have to be less than title dot splice. Type this tab index and 1. I'm gonna remove one item, and I need to make sure I update the title. So I'm gonna say titles equals titles over here. Same thing goes for here, so that Svelte knows that I am updating this variable called titles. Okay, so here I have all the titles. I'm gonna create all the tabs. So I'm just gonna use simple things like button. And I'm gonna use each to loop through all the titles. Titles as, so each of the item is an object that has ID and a title. Oops, let me come over here and each. Right, so each of the button I can show the title. Right, so I have 4 tabs right now, and upon clicking, I want to set the selected tab to the ID, right? So here I have 4 tabs, and if I come over here and say, for example, if I have certain condition, input bind check equals to is logged in. This is my favorite way of defining to control a variable, right? Using a checkbox. So if I unchecked, you see that I only have 2 tabs left. If I check, then you have 4 tabs, right? Okay, the order is wrong now because this is being pushed in later on. So this probably is something that we need to think about and figure out later on. But here, let's have all my tabs. Let's switch between tabs. It does not work, right? We've updated this variable, but it's not updated. It's not reactive, because variables are not reactive across contexts. You can't make it reactive across components. And we have talked about this in a context versus store. When should you use a reactive context using store, which is a writable plus context combo. And this is exactly the case when we need it. So I'm gonna come over here and say import writable from Svelte store. And I'm gonna make this a writable object. Okay, make this a writable. So I'm gonna pass in a writable selector tab. And here, since it's writable, I'm gonna come here and see where am I? Yeah, I'm gonna update this using a $sign, right? Selector tab equals ID. Okay. But this over here, we pass in selector tab as 2, right? This again has to be so 2 ways of doing this. This can be a default selector tab, or this we want to pass in a string, then probably we cannot reuse this anymore. We would have to create a new variable called selected tab store and create a writable store like this, right? Writable selected tab. And I'm gonna pass it this over here. Write this instead. And now what I'm getting is a store. So I need to use a store to get the value of the store. Right now, as I switch, you can see that I'm switching the step, right? And the title, is it reactive? No, it's not. So what should I do? I need to come over here, get the title as changed, right? Every time when I title change, I need to do something, right? I probably would, whenever title change, I want to update my title, right? So this slide starts to become more complex. We need to come over here and say, we can register and unregister. We can also come over here and do things like update my title, right? ID title, because all the list of titles is being managed over here in the tabs, right? I need to provide a way to update title if I want to. And I'm going to copy this, find the ID, find the index, and then I'm going to say titles of tab index dot title equals to the title that it wants, right? So now if I come over here, I need to call tab titles dot update title with the ID and the title. Now when I change this, you can see that the title is updating now, right? If I switch to this tab, this is updating as well. So I remove, right? I can update my title dynamically. Okay, so what's next? What's left, right? We can switch between tabs. We can have a we can hide and show tabs, although the order is wrong, but they are still working fine, I presume. Okay, so here I can also change the selected tab from outside. Can we? I think we should allow people to change the tabs, right? So say for example, for some reason I have a button over here. Click me. For some reason I can change the selected tab to say 4. Okay, so this now suddenly becomes a variable that I can change that is dynamic. Selected tab equals to 2. Let's see, yeah. So I can switch between tabs, and I also want to click this and switch to 4, but it's not switched to. So what should I do? Well, again, come over here. You see that this is just read once when you create a writable, and then that's it. So here probably you will wants to have a reactive statement to update this variable every time, right? Selected tab store equals to selected tab, right? So what is the dependency of this statement? Selected tab. So every time selected tab change, you want to update the value to the store, right? So if I can come here to switch my tabs, and if I click this, it should switch to this tab as well. Of course, here we can't really see what is being selected from the button. So maybe I can come over here and maybe add some style, right? So I can come here and say a button that has a class called selected. Maybe should have a background color, background of black and color of white. So we have learned this before. How do we dynamically add class? We can, based on a certain condition, we can say class selected equals to this, right? This is the condition if the class is selected. Equals to ID. Let's see. Okay, no, this should be $, right? Add a class when it's being selected. So now you can see that secret tab 2 is selected. Let's switch. you will highlight the tabs being selected, right? If you can switch to last tab, come over here and hold on. Oh yeah, so this switch internally, but it does not update the variable outside, so that is something slightly wrong. So I would say we can come over here. We want to update back this variable called Selector Tab, right? So probably a better way is to bind it, right? To bind the value out to the variable outside. So over here you can see that Selected Tab is number 2, right? And I should update this variable as well, which means I need to come over here and do the reverse of this. I should come over here and say Selector Tab equals to the Selector Tab star, right? However, it gives me a cyclical dependency detected. Okay, so let's see, what should I do? Obviously, you can see that I never planned this before. I just wing it. So let's figure out how we should do this, right? So every time Selector Tab has changed, we need to update Selector Tab star. And Selector Tab change. Okay, obviously, I wouldn't say obviously, but a workaround to bypass this cyclical dependency is to create a function so that it does not see this cyclical dependency. But that does not mean it's a good idea to do it, because if we override it, if we do it this way, we may end up with a circular endless recursive loop of updating, right? But let's try and see. Okay, at least right now it seems okay. We switch this to 4, switch back again. Yeah, it looks okay from the outset, so hopefully that is still doing good. So if you have, so what's happened, and how do we divert this hard limit? Well, we change this to a function instead of like assigning the value directly. And what that change is that now Svelte will only see that you only, as long as update props change or Selector Tab store changes, then you will call this declarative statement, right? So what happens is that if you have a variable over here instead, then it will look at this variable and say this depends on this, and so A depends on this store, and this store depends on Selector Tab, right? If you have Selector Tab equals to store and store equals to Selector Tab, then they are depending on each other, right? So if you remove it and you just shove it into another function, Svelte will only see this statement and couldn't figure that there is actually a cyclical dependency here. So I'm not telling you that you should do this. Do it at your own cost. I feel that there's some things that I can't think of right now, but there might be something that may not be that right. Maybe there will be a few loops before it settles. But let's. So let me know if you see any issue with this, right? So I'm just gonna leave it here because apparently it seems like it's working, right? It changes my variable and I can update them as well. And now if I come over here and I hide this and I turn it on again, it's showing but at a wrong position. So now let's take a look at here and let's think about how we can fix this. Well, apparently again, I've never prepared for this, so that's why I'm thinking together with you. So here I'm hiding, I'm showing. Okay, so let's take a look at how are we able to tell the order from here to the tabs, right? There's no way that we can tell. And but how do we get the order right in the first place? Well, the order was right because its login was turn on, okay, false, in the first place, right? So if it's false and you create this, then this two will definitely be pushed later on. Will be pushed later on into the array, and you never know where it was intended in the first place, right? So now let's think a bit at how is there a way for the tabs components to know their relative position amongst each other? I feel like there's no way to do that. So it means that there's no way that we can fix this. Yeah, for now, I don't think there's a way that we can fix this. So let me know it again on the comments down below. Comments if you have any good idea to handle this, right? So there's no good way, then which means that we kind of have to sacrifice a bit with our design and come about and say maybe order, right? If you want like some fixed ordering, come up with a props called order, and therefore you can get away with having a come up with a thing called order, and then you can register and pass this order to the titles so that you can have a control with the order, right? I guess that's why maybe a less obnoxious way of doing, like having to pass order, is to pass maybe a condition to say show tab, right? So this way you maintain the order because the component has obviously created, but then because of show tab, you can say that, hey, you can tell over here, you can have a way to say, hey, this tab is hidden, and another method to say, hey, show this tab now, right? So you have your titles being created at the right order at the very beginning because all the components has already been there, except that you also pass in a flag to tell that which tab should be shown or should be hidden, so that when you untoggle that, you still maintain the right order. So that's all for now, I think, because I can't think of a better way of solving this. So as I said, I don't know everything. So if you have a better idea, comments down below, tell me, and we can learn this together. Right? So what we have done so far, we've created a tabs component by coming up with a nice design component design that we have, and then figure out how to fill in the gaps or how to achieve what we want. Right? So things that we have used so far, we have used context to pass data around from tabs to the tab, and pass the tab to the tabs. Right? We pass like what are the selector tab from the tabs to tab, and we pass titles, register like our title, register our contents, ID and title from tab to tabs. Then we use store in our context, right? A reactive store, a reactive context, and along the way we also use things like binding, and we see how we can use reactive statements, and we have some workarounds with that. So hopefully this is useful for you to implement something more nicer than what I have over here. My tabs is hideous, right? Although it's working, but it's hideous. But I believe you can do something much better. So if you style your tabs and make it nicer, drop your repo link or components or links to GitHub in the comments down, so that you can share this niceties with the world, right? So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you think that you learn a lot and you want to share it to others, share. Click the share button down, right? And as I always say, remember to subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when the next video is out. So see ya, bye bye.